the two sides into giving them guns, and that's where we got to.
Okay. Does this look like the last slide?
We're looking at a painting, I think.
This one. We were looking at this painting before. Is that that's where we left off? Does that sound familiar? Okay. Anya, can you look at your notes? Have we done the Battle of Blood River yet?
No.
Okay, I didn't think we had. All right, so let's do the Battle of Blood River. Tiffany, did you do the Battle of Blood River with us in class? Oh wait, no, were you in person still at that point, or?
Me? Who? Sorry, the voice you.
Or Tiffany, Manvis? Well, I don't remember. Man, did you do it?
No, we didn't.
Okay, I think we're all synced up now. I think we're good. All right, so let's do the Battle of Blood River. All right, so as the Boers move up into the frontier, right? So they're moving up into the frontier states, right? Up into the area up here. As they're moving up into the frontier states, they're moving up into Orange and they're moving into Transvaal, right? As they're doing that, they're going to have a series of fights with the Zulus, right? The one that is going to stand out is going to be what's called the Battle of Blood River, 1838. Okay. In the Battle of Blood River, this is where this one is really important because this one gets held up in time as this like great battle that they all use as like a form of their identity. Okay, so in this case, we have 470 Voortrekkers, and they're fighting 15,000 Zulus. And the Voortrekkers win the battle, and they kill all of the evil Zulus in order to secure everyone's future. Okay, so right off the bat, something should stand out to you. What stands out is maybe a little bit weird. Yeah, Drew?
450 men somehow won the 15,000 other men.
Yeah, so this number is a number that Afrikaners will swear to you that it is a real number, and they will swear to you that it is. And we do know that the Afrikaners did have modern weaponry, and we do know that they even had like a little bit of artillery. They had some like kind of primitive kind of artillery, some cannons, right? So it's possible that they killed 15,000 people. I tend to think, Mr. Veenstra, tend to think they're blowing the number up quite a bit, right? I think it's probably something more like 470 Voortrekkers killing maybe 3,000 Zulus, something like that, right? But whatever. This is one of these points where the actual factual history matters a lot less than the story they tell afterwards. Okay? The Battle of Blood River is going to be for the Voortrekkers what lost cause ideology is for Confederates, for American Southerners. Okay? Michael Liu, do you remember what the lost cause ideology is?
Basically, the Southerners thought the Civil War wasn't really fought for racist things or slavery. It was fought for like made up things like states' rights or whatever.
Okay. All right, that's good. All right, Michael Zong, can you add to that? What makes the lost cause ideology important?
I mean, I understood it as them like embracing their heritage and like being proud of being white and that kind of stuff, and like them, I don't know. It's just like being proud of what they've done. That's like justification. Right, and it's not always being proud to be white, it's proud to be Southern, right? That you have this like Southern identity, okay? The lost cause ideology is a really important aspect of Southerners creating their identity, right? Because now they'll say, I'm not descended from like evil slave owners. I'm descended from noble men who defended Alabama against the Northern aggression, right? Like you're repackaging your history essentially.
right? It lets you lie to yourself, basically. It lets you lie to yourself, and it lets like entire states worth of people lie to themselves about what kind of people they are, right? And like what kind of history they have. And it lets them ignore the dark parts of their history and kind of focus on this like sanitized thing that they like, right? Does that make sense? You guys with me on that? Okay. Battle of Blood River is the same thing. Battle of Blood River is where the Battle of Blood River is where future Vortrekkers, future Boers, future Afrikaners are going to be able to look back at this moment and they say, this was the moment that God blessed us. God let us win this battle. God gave us the power and the strength and the glory that we were able to beat 15,000 people in combat, right? That is going to go into this like Afrikaner exceptionalism idea, this like Calvinist idea that they are uniquely saved, right? That they're blessed by God. This way, when future people look back at them and they say, oh my God, your ancestors just straight up murdered thousands and thousands of Black people and you enslaved them, the Vortrekkers go, no, no, no. God wanted us to do it. We were doing it. We were blessed by God. There's no way that 470 men could beat 15,000 men if it wasn't for God. Right? And that's building into this like identity, right? This is going to become, when the Afrikaners take over the country in the future, spoiler alert, sorry. Yeah, when the Afrikaners take over the country in the future and the Afrikaners are running the government, the Battle of Blood River is going to be the first holiday they create. It's going to be like a national holiday where they all get out and they celebrate. And they have like parades celebrating their whiteness and parades celebrating, you know, the glorious beating of all the Black people in the past and stuff like that, right? That this is going to be this, the Battle of Blood River is going to function the same way as like the Battle of Antietam does for Southerners, or like, you know, waving a Confederate flag, or, you know, any of that kind of stuff, right? This is going to be a symbol that they're going to use. Okay. Oh, in a historical sense, the Battle of Blood River is also important because this is when they conquered the frontier. This is the last battle of conquering the frontier. So the frontier of Orange and Transvaal are now under white control. Now, let's be clear here. This is not an end to the violence. The violence is going to continue for decades and decades. It's just like when Americans conquered our frontier, right? And we're like, ah, sweet. California is a state now. Everything's wonderful, right? And then we spend the next 60 years killing all the natives in California. This is kind of like that, right? The Vortrekkers are going to be like, ah, Transvaal, it's a state now. And then they're going to spend 50 years killing the Blacks, killing the natives of Transvaal. It's a very similar kind of a parallel there. Okay. All right. So let's move to our next number. What's the next number? H, is that right?
I think it's G.
G. Okay. So G is going to be limited independence for the Vortrekkers. The Vortrekker states are going to get limited independence. Okay. So in the 1850s, the British and the Dutch are going to go through a series of small battles, relatively small battles. And then they're going to end with this negotiation that the Vortrekker states are going to recognize that they are part of the British Empire, right? So they recognize that they are part of South Africa. South Africa is a British colony. They recognize that. But the British also recognize that the Vortrekkers want to be left alone. And so the Vortrekkers are able to kind of control most of their internal affairs. So they have limited autonomy. They have some limited autonomy. And let's be clear, when I'm talking about the Vortrekker states, what two states am I talking about? What are the two? Manvith, what are they?
Transvaal and Orange.
Yeah. All right. Cape is under British control. Cape is totally under British control. There's no You know, there's Dutch people here, but they are subjects of the British, right? And then the other state, the one state we haven't met yet, is Natal. At this time period, the British also found the state of Natal. Okay, it's right along the coastline, you know, so the Brits built up onto it, right? The British are especially good at taking over coastlines. So they create the state of Natal. Natal is a different kind of state. First, it's founded by the British. Okay, all of the other states were founded by Dutch people. This one's founded by the British. The second thing that makes Natal really, really different is that the British start importing labor from India. They start importing Indians, lots of Indians. Okay, they'll start bringing Indians in the late 1850s, 1860s, and they're going to have a steady influx of Indians going to be coming in over the next 40 years, right? We will do Indian history in January at the beginning of the next, right after we get back from Christmas break, we'll do Indian history. So you guys don't know this yet, but at this point in time, England has just taken over direct control of India, right? India had previously been ruled by the British East India Trading Company, which was a company that was controlling India. That company went bankrupt and they didn't really do a good job and they kind of collapsed. And so the British stepped in, the actual government of England stepped in and took over India. Okay. That happened at this point, happened a couple of decades earlier, right? So now the British have the crown jewel, India, right? And India is filled with lots of people that the British really like to work with. Okay. The British like to bring Indians into South Africa. They actually bring Indians into all of their territories. They bring them into like Nigeria and South Africa and the Caribbean. They bring it everywhere, right? And the reason why is because the British view that the Indians are more docile and they're more willing to work and they're less prone to rebellion. Is what the British are saying. Now, I'm not trying to say this in a way that's offensive. I know a bunch of you guys are Indian, right? I'm not trying to tell you that you're docile, right? But the British perceive the Indians as less likely to rebel, right? And the British are looking at like the Zulu, right? The Zulu have been in open rebellion every single decade that South Africa has existed, right? And the Zulu have been fighting nonstop battles this entire time. Indians haven't been, right? And so that it feeds this perception of the British think Indians are just easier to work with, right? The other thing is that one, they're not in rebellion. Two, the Indians are eager to learn English, right? Where the Zulus resist it. The Zulus don't want to learn English, but the Indians do, right? If you guys know anything about India, you'll know that India has like just a ton of people, right? Literally 1 billion people, right? And those billion people speak like 30 or 40 official languages, right? The subcontinent of India has as many languages as Europe does, right? And it has more people, it has about as many people as Europe does too. So as diverse in your mind as you think Europe is, you have to also accept that India is equally as diverse, right? Because there are so many languages in India, English is really useful because it's the language that can unify everybody, right? The Tamils don't want to learn how to speak Hindi because they don't want to recognize Hindi culture is better than theirs. And the Hindus don't want to learn to speak Marathi, and Marathis don't want to learn how to speak Punjab, and Punjabis don't want to learn how to speak whatever, Urdu or Bengali, or you know what I mean? Like they all kind of don't trust each other. And so English is the one thing they can agree on. Okay. The other thing we need here is this is where we're going to officially get the 3-tiered racial system. This is where we're officially starting that 3-tiered racial system. Do you guys remember what the 3 tiers are? Yash, do you remember them?
It's just the whites, the coloreds, and the blacks, right?
Yeah. Yes, it's whites, coloreds, and blacks, but this is where we're going to actually make it like official, right? Previous it had been kind of cultural, but now it's official. So whites, coloreds, and blacks. Okay, so whites are going to be anyone of European descent, Dutch or British. Okay, coloreds are going to be mostly Indians. Mostly Indians, but we're also going to get an influx of Latin Americans, and we're also going to get an influx of Arabs, right? But Indians are going to be the largest number. There's also one specific tribe that's going to be included there too. Who remembers which tribe is going to be included there? What African tribe is going to get put into that category as well? Yoha, you remember them?
Yeah, wasn't it the Khoisan from earlier?
There you go. Make sure you put them in the notes at this point, right? It's the Khoisan. Rahul, do you remember why the Khoisan are getting this special treatment?
Because they became Dutch, they integrated.
Sure, they did. They integrated, which means what? When we say that they integrated? Tiffany, do you
they
remember
interbred.
what that means? So part of it is they interbred, but what else, Tiff?
I don't really remember. Sorry.
All right.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay, so Rashmeen, help her out.
They started interbreeding, which means that their skin got lighter, so people were less biased against them.
So that's true. Rahul had mentioned that. So part of it is that they're interbreeding, they're producing half-white children, right? But what's the other thing that they do? There's something culturally that they do.
Is it that they brought like black people to be slaves for them?
Yeah, right. So they're enslaving the other tribes. Who was that? Was that Wentao? Yeah, that was, yeah. So they're enslaving the other tribes. They're also choosing to learn Dutch, and they're also choosing to become Christian, right? So because the Khoisan learn Dutch, become Christian, help enslave the other tribes, and eventually start interbreeding, right? Khoisan today are pretty light-skinned. Many Khoisan today are going to be lighter skinned than you guys. Like many Khoisan will be, maybe not totally blonde hair or blue eye, but they're going to be, I don't know, light enough skin to look, an American would think of them as Latino or something like that. Right? Is that, you guys with me on that? All right. The other thing we need to make a note of is when I'm saying Indians in this context, I want you to understand that India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka are all the same country at this point. And so they're coming from everywhere in India, right? So a significant portion of the people coming down to Natal are Pakistanis, are what we today would call Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, Indians, Sri Lankans, right? I want you to understand that we're dealing with a population that is both Hindu and Muslim, and a population that is linguistically diverse as well. All right, so just I'm using Indian as a shorthand for all of them because at this time period, it's all one country. Cool. All right, and then so the category white is for Europeans, Dutch and English. The category for colored is going to be mostly Indians, but it's got a grab bag for anyone who's not from South Africa who is not white, right? So Latinos are going to go in there, Arabs are going to go in there too. Okay, and then the category for black is going to be any native African. Any native African. We're mostly talking about Zulu, Xhosa, and Sotho are going to be our big groups that we're talking about. Cool. But it would include like slaves from the Congo, stuff like that. Like when they bring slaves from the Congo, they're included too. All right. The last thing, let's make a note here. In Natal is going to end up becoming about 25% Indian. It's going to be quite a bit, quite a few, quite a large population of Indians. One of the largest populations of Indians outside of India. So quite a few, including one, Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi lives here. Yeah. So one of the things you need to understand about this also is that the coloreds, particularly Indians, have different rights and stuff. So as the system is going to get formalized, they're going to start integrating like segregation, you know, kind of like a souped up version of the American version of segregation. The Indians are going to be allowed to kind of run things within their own community. And so the Indians are going to do stuff like they're going to found schools, universities, like law schools, medical schools, that kind of stuff. So we're going to have like, you know, Indian law schools in South Africa that serve coloreds and sometimes are allowed to serve blacks as well. Okay, this is where Gandhi is going to go get his law degree, actually, in one of these schools. Yeah, I bet you didn't know Gandhi is a lawyer, right? Yeah. You thought he was just some skinny dude who didn't eat much, but no, he was a lawyer. He was a lawyer that didn't eat much. All right. Okay. Are we good here? Do we have any questions about this before we move on? All right. What do you think is going to, there's something that's going to break the delicate balance here, right? We have this delicate balance of the British controlling the coastline, the Dutch controlling the inner frontier, neither of them liking each other very much. What do you expect is going to break that? They're going to go into a war. If you did the reading, you know there's a war coming. So what's going to cause the war? What do you expect? Somebody unmic themselves. Chime in. What always causes a war? Yeah, Drew. What you got, man?
So pretty much the Zulu people, they've been subjugated, pretty much. So they had like no rights to vote or anything. So
Okay.
they pretty much started a war with the Boers as a result of it.
Yeah, the Zulu were always kind of in a low-level war with both the British and the Boers, right? The Zulu are kind of always at war. There's going to be a war brewing between the Boers and the British.
Oh.
Oh, come on now.
Is it from
Gold.
the Gold Rush?
It's gold, baby. Gold. Yeah, who said Gold Rush? Who was that? Yash? Or who was that? I didn't see who it was.
It was me.
Oh, Wentau. There you go. All right. So yeah, it's gold. Wentau is absolutely correct. 1886, the Witwatersrand Gold Rush. Witwatersrand Gold Rush. Okay. Now, if you've studied American history, like you guys did last year, then you will know what happened after every single gold rush in American history. Every single one of them. Every single one of them kills the natives, right? It kills the natives, every single one of them. So the Witwatersrand Gold Rush is going to A, cause a war between the British and the Dutch, and B, going to kill a lot of natives, a lot of natives. So let's deal with this Witwatersrand Gold Rush. Now, first thing we need to make sure here, you need to be able to say, spell, and use Witwatersrand. That's a word that's not going away. It's not going away. It's going to be with us for quite a long time. It's an important word. So everybody say it out loud right now. Witwatersrand. Witwatersrand. Okay, do it again. Witwatersrand.
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 Yeah. You need to be able to say it. You need to be able to spell it. You need to be able to use it. Okay. I know some people get intimidated by long words, but sorry, this is just the way it is. Get used to long words because India is going to give you really long words. All right. So, Witwatersrand Gold Rush is located up here in Transvaal. It's located primarily in Transvaal near Johannesburg, though there is also a gold rush in Orange as well. Okay, in Transvaal and Orange. The biggest one is in near Johannesburg. It's in Transvaal. All right. Witwatersrand Gold Rush is going to become the largest gold rush in the world. By the time we're done with this thing, it's going to produce 1/5 of all of the gold on the planet Earth. 1/5 of all the gold on the planet Earth. It's also going to produce 1/4 of all the diamonds on the planet Earth. It's also going to produce either the first or second largest deposit of copper, zinc, manganese, of all these, of like most minerals. This is going to lead us into what we call the mineral revolution. Just like we have an industrial revolution, we have a market revolution, we have the computer revolution, the green revolution. This is the mineral revolution. The mineral revolution is a term you need to use, and it's defined as the period of time in South African history where the mining industry recreated all of South African culture, politics, and economics. The period of time in South African history where the mining industry recreated South African politics, culture, and economics. Okay, this is big, big money. If we're looking at a parallel for American history, the discovery of gold at Witwatersrand is the same thing as Eli Whitney inventing the cotton gin for America, right? When he invents the cotton gin for America, the South goes from growing, you know, mid-priced tobacco to growing top-priced cotton, and that's the only thing they do, right? The South becomes 100% dedicated to cotton, and the United States ends up getting 2/3 of its entire economy is cotton. Well, welcome to South Africa, where 2/3 of the entire economy is mining, right? It's going to be a huge, massive mining. And South Africa is going to become the largest mines in the world.
What was the tail end of that explanation for the mineral revolution?
The definition?
Yeah.
It's the time period where the mining industry recreated South African culture, politics, and economics.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, put some dates on there also. The dates will be from the 1870s to the 1900s. Make sure, if you didn't get the dates already, put the dates on there. All right. So first of all, money, 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 money. They're going to start making a ton of money, right? As a colony, how much money do you think South Africa is going to be able to hold on to? Very little. Most of that money is going to be funneled up to the British. Okay? Of course. Of course. Welcome to colonialism, right? So most of that money is going to get funneled up to the Brits. But the other thing that it causes is massive foreign investment. South Africa is going to get more foreign investment, like foreign companies investing in them. It's going to get more foreign investment than the rest of the entire continent. Okay, if you take all of the money invested in the entire continent of Africa, it's less than just South Africa. South Africa is going to get so much money coming in, so many companies coming in from all over the world who are going to come in and dig mines here. This is where South Africa is going to get another huge immigration boost. They're going to get a boost of Indians first, another big boost of Indians. They're also going to get a bunch of Arabs coming down from the Ottoman Empire. They're also going to get Latin Americans as well, right? They're going to get an influx of like Brazilians and stuff. The Latin Americans are never going to be Mexicans and Brazilians. They're never going to be a really, really big portion of the population. It's always going to be like 1%, but they're here. They're here. You wouldn't expect there to be a big Brazilian population, but there is. Okay. The diamonds are not on the big map here. Diamonds are down here. The diamonds are mostly centered around Kimberley. Mostly centered around Kimberley. But you can see on this map here that there's very little of South Africa that isn't mining at this point. So it changes the like physical features of the country. Here's some pictures of some of these mines today. This one here, this is Johannesburg. This is the largest city in all of South Africa, and this is their mine, right? And it goes right up to the city there. This one is Kimberley. This is one of the diamond mines in Kimberley, and that's the city there, right? These things are massive, massive mines. There's big giant holes like this all over the country. all over the country. And Johannesburg has, I think Johannesburg has like 6 of these in its metropolitan area. Big, giant holes in the ground, massive holes in the ground. Okay. The other way that it radically transforms the country. So first, it leaves these giant craters all over the place, right? Second, it's going to create a rail network. If you look at the rail network of Africa, all through here, right? These are all the rails going all over the entire continent of Africa. Now look at South Africa, right? South Africa is going to get almost as much rails in just South Africa as the rest of the continent gets. So massive, massive investment. And these rails are being built by European companies using mostly African labor, sometimes Indian labor as well, sometimes Indian, but mostly African labor. Now, like a true colony, these rails are mostly useless today because the rails do not connect population centers. They don't connect workers to their home, to their work. They only connect mines. So awesome, right? It's mostly a worthless network today because they would build a railroad up to the mine and then the mine is done, like the mine is dead, and then they just like leave the railroad there, right? So this is one of the problems with colonialism. This problem is going to return when we get to India as well, because India is also going to get a massive rail network, and that massive rail network is about 2/3 worthless, right? So awesome, right? It's good to be a colony, right? When countries make their own rail networks, they connect population centers. But when countries don't have control over it, the rail networks are connecting like industrial areas, and that's it. So connect like mines to ports. All right. The other thing that's going to happen here is we're going to get the second Boer War. The second Boer War. This is going to be, a war between the British and the Boers, ostensibly. But if you've done the reading, you know who's the real loser of this war. Rashmin, who's the real loser of the war? You're muted.
Can you repeat that? Sorry,
Yeah.
my audio is really bad.
Oh, can you guys not hear me very well?
No, my computer's speakers are broken.
Sorry. Yeah, no, if you've done the reading, then you'll know that the war is between the British and the Dutch, but who's the real loser of this war?
Oh, the natives.
Yeah, the Zulus. The Zulus by far and away are going to be the big loser of this war. It's just like in the War of 1812 in American history. The War of 1812 is between the British and the Americans, but who really lost?
The Indian Nation, yeah.
The Cherokee, the Shoshone, the Chippewa, right? Or the French and Indian War between the French and the British, but who really lost? The Mohawks and the Sequoia and all these other ones, right? Not Sequoia. Sequoia is a man, not a tribe. Anyway, regardless, the Second Boer War is, here's our dates on the Second Boer War. We don't need all of the details of the war. What you need about this war is that it is a nasty, nasty, brutal war. A very, very nasty, brutal war with a really high death toll. The British are going to invade with 700,000 troops, right? Because the Dutch are sitting on all that gold. The British aren't going to let them just sit on that gold. And as soon as they find that gold, the British decide to renegotiate that semi-autonomous status of theirs, right? And so the British reinvade, essentially. The Boers fight back, but we're going to get 48,000 of them dead, half of which are Zulus that basically just get caught up in the middle of the war, essentially, right? The Zulus hate the Dutch, and so the Zulus think they're going to be able to side with the Dutch or side with the British against the Dutch, but then it doesn't work because both the British and the Dutch basically just kill the Zulus. yeah, the Zulus get treated very, very badly. What I want you to understand here is that this war is characterized by modern warfare tactics, okay? This is going to be a war of concentration camps. And I'm using that word specifically because I know that when I use that phrase, when I use the word concentration camps, you guys have in your mind images of like Auschwitz and the Nazis and World War II, right? This is the same thing going on here. That is the image you should have for this war as well. Okay, massive starvation, massive disease, massive murder, mass murder, bad, 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 bad. The British also take it upon themselves to test out a brand new invention that the Americans just sold to them. They call it a machine gun. It's where you've attached a machine to the gun and you can shoot lots and lots of bullets. The British are testing out a bunch of tactics that are going to come back in World War I, right? If you look at our dates here, World War I is just a decade away, right? Observing this war are going to be German observers who look at the machine guns and think, those would be really nice to use against the Frenchies. That'd be really cool. And the Germans also take a lot of notes on how to run a concentration camp. And the Germans are like, look at that. And then they work on it and they figure out ways to make concentration camps more efficient, right? This Boer War, Second Boer War, is a nasty, nasty, brutal affair. And it's going to cast a shadow over South Africa. Okay, we're going to leave this here. This is a good place to leave us, paralyzed by a nasty, brutal war. Do you guys have questions about any of the stuff we've done? Anything that we covered today? Okay. There's a quiz on Canvas. I would like you to log in and take the quiz. I think it's SA1. I think it's SAQ1. Is that right? I think that's what it is. The code is 270. Okay, the code is 270, as in the next day or two, someone will have 270 electoral votes. Okay, all right, so yeah, Rush.
Sorry, right before you talked about the quiz, you asked if you had any questions about something, but I didn't hear you ask questions like, actually, never mind, it's fine. I'll just email you.
Sure, okay. All right, I'm gonna stop the recording now.